Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Small Business Edge Business Boot Camp for women and minority-owned business owners. In today's Q&A session, we're going to be answering questions from business owners about technology and the impact it will have on their business in 2021. I want to welcome our two experts to today's show. Riva Lasansky, Riva, you can wave, is the founder and CEO of GrowBiz Media and SmallBizDaily.com. She's also one of the top journalists in the country when reporting on small business, and she has been for decades. You started when she was 17.
I was four. I was
Right. Our other guest expert is Brian Kramer, CEO of H2H Companies, a virtual speaker, a best-selling author, and I love his book, Human to Human, H2H, and Shareology. Two books I highly recommend reading. He's a business performance coach and strategist to Fortune 500 companies. Did I get all that right, Brian?
Yeah, I made that all up, but it's correct.
I literally met Brian 10 minutes ago. I asked him what he was doing. He goes, I don't know. We stuck him in front of the camera.
I had my wife write all that 2 minutes before we jumped on, so I hope you guys don't mind.
She is fantastic. Maybe we should have her on.
Yeah, I can make some stuff up for her too. I mean,
All right. Today's show and our entire week, Tech Week, is sponsored by Oracle NetSuite, which is helping businesses grow by providing the visibility, control, and agility needed to build and run a successful business. So thank you, Oracle NetSuite. Brian and Riva, we ready to do this?
Ready?
All right, let's talk tech. The clock is running. We have 30 minutes and we have a hard stop. So here's my first question, and I'll let Riva answer it first. Did technology save our economy in 2020?
I would ask you, first of all, is the economy saved? I don't know that it is. But in the sense that we're still functioning, yes. Technology enabled when the states told everybody to go home and work from home, it kept those businesses afloat, right? Technology has made it easy and simple to, the cliche work from anywhere at any time, but in this case, it was a necessity. So in that sense, yes, it saved businesses large and small and saved money. And I think it taught a few lessons, right? There's a lot of businesses now who realize I could be have been remote all along, and I don't need to pay rents and expensive overhead. So it could have an impact going forward as well.
Right. Brian Kramer, what do you think? Did technology save our economy in 2020?
I think I'm just going to go with ditto.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. I do agree though. It's not really like saved. It's a tough question to answer because, it's and the economy, you say the economy, right? Like, what is the economy now? Like it's, is it stock? Is it, and we could sit around the table and talk about like the definition of the economy and,
Sure.
And how are we all affected by it? And did we individually get affected by it? And I'd argue no. I mean, we're all, not all, most of us are individually, affected by different things. So on an individualistic level, there's that. And then when you look at technology, saved, okay. Yeah, human to Zoom to human. I would go with that.
Right.
The book has changed, and we are now living in a Zoom world or a WebEx world or replace whatever you want to replace. We are living in that world. And so, yeah, 10, 20 years ago, would we have been able to work and collaborate digitally?
Right.
Probably not. Probably not. So yeah, I would venture to say in that area of digital collaboration, the likes of Asana and project management and human to Zoom to human, we're living. Yeah, it massively helped us to do what we couldn't have done otherwise.
Right. Well, I think without it, I guess the way we're framing this now is that things could have been a whole lot worse without technology. One of the things, though, that I realized, and this is just, again, just kind of trying to keep my toes in all areas of the economy in our country, is that technology exposed the haves and the have-nots, right? Whether it's in education or business or society as a whole. When we went into lockdown and people had to go home, my wife works in a school system, and there are a lot of kids that don't have computers and they don't have access to Zoom. And so I think in that sense, it exposed kind of how tough it is for people who don't have access to things that we consider to be we almost take it for granted, right? Like broadband is like oxygen to us, and doesn't everybody have it? Or doesn't have everybody have access to Zoom and digital cameras?
But that's without getting into a whole political thing. Broadband, they've been saying, oh, we're going to bring broadband to the whole country since, I don't know, 3 administrations ago, I think.
Right.
Actually the early 2000s. So that was some big government initiative that never happened. In terms of computers, isn't it the school district's responsibility? I mean, here in the next town over, every kid in middle school and high school gets a school issued laptop by the school.
Right. Good point.
Yeah. And so it's about, instead of people, I get really mad because people are, whining about this. Well, it's the school's responsibility to make sure every kid has Chromebooks are cheap, right? They're cheap. So go give every kid a Chromebook. This isn't hard. Or that you want to talk doing good, let the tech companies donate this stuff. It's just
Reva, you're so speaking my language right now. I could not agree more. I live in in air quotes Silicon Valley, San Jose, and I got so worked up because we live here in the second largest school district in the state of California, and we're not able to provide laptops to our students, and I'm like, how is that possible?
Right.
I live down the street from Google. I live down the street from Apple. I live down the street from Facebook. I live down the street. And I'm like, really? Is that really a problem? Like you have used laptops sitting in a room somewhere that you could give to the students that could help all these kids out. And you know what? The districts ended up buying everybody all this stuff, and they ended up going over budget, which is hard. And I guess we could go into a whole educational about where school systems are and why did they go over and all that kind of stuff, which is not where I'm intending this to go. But yeah, to your point, this shouldn't be that hard.
Right. Now you take that and you extend it out into the business world, small businesses who don't have the benefit of having school districts, supply the computers to them, whatnot. And it's you realize that these businesses are on their own to stay connected to their ecosystem when businesses get shut down. But the real question I have, Brian, is what is traffic like on your street in the morning? If you live down the street from Apple and Google and Facebook, what is school drop off like?
This year?
Yeah, this year it's easy.
This year is easy, but in general, geez, I tell my kids to walk to school.
Yeah, well, this year, it's like you could hear a pin drop.
Right.
But any other year, but we live also 10 minutes from school, and And
Right.
you know, so it's not too bad. If you go anywhere on a highway here, you're kind of, yeah, it's no
Yeah.
bueno. That's not
Yeah.
good.
Bring a book to
Uh,
read.
Yeah,
book.
like get a Tesla, because you're gonna be
Right.
you'll
Right.
want a self-driving car at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. So tell me about some of the technology investments that each of you made this year in your business. And was it due to COVID, or was it just something that you had planned all along? Brian Kramer, you're up.
Well, that's like you're throwing like a softball to me, because I think I can say this. I'm a tool whore. I can't stop buying.
Oh, no.
Um,
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course you
I'm-
can say it.
you edit that out if you need. Beep.
Yeah.
I can't stop buying software. My wife does not like that part of me. I should go to Software Anonymous, because I love, and Brian, you know this about me, I love testing and trying software.
Yes.
Steve Blood's on here. I love lately. I love all kinds of software. And so what did I invest in this year? Oh my God, everything. I invested in Active Campaign. Continue to invest in Active Campaign. That's my email system. I continue to invest in Nimble CRM. I invested and tried out Circle. That's a online community. I've got over 100 people in that. It's kind of like if you take Slack and Facebook groups and merge them together without the ads and everything.
Right.
It does all that. I invested in Miro. Miro is whiteboarding for groups and private teams. I invested in Typeform so that I can onboard people through interactive questionnaires that makes it easy and fun for people to hand over their information, so I can hyper target them with advertising. I invested in, I believe it or not, I invested in just Google Analytics and getting that up and running. I invested in StreamYard so that I can multi-stream IO, so that I can stream to 5 to 10 different places at once. Facebook, YouTube,
Right.
everywhere. I'm going to stop. I could keep going. Like I said before, this is like your question actually could be like a whole.
Well, hopefully you're doing reviews of those and you're sharing your information. That's why I love talking to you, simply for that reason, because you've already kind of cut your teeth on software that helps people run better businesses. And so I'll go to you and I'll say, hey, I need to solve this problem. What are your thoughts on it? So I love that. But so you've invested a lot in your business, but was any of that, was it COVID related? Like, because again, you weren't speaking. I know you speak a lot around the country, around the world. Was any of that, so okay, now I'm not going to be able to speak in front of these people, let me invest in some of these software tools for Zoom and for virtual speaking?
Good question. So I invested in that's the name of it.
Okay.
And it's MMHMM, and it allows you to do different tricks and tips and different things on screen while you're presenting for virtual. And the person who invented Evernote invented this so that you can be able to show up differently. So now you can see this is so I can do all kinds of stuff on screen.
Wow.
I can show up differently here. I can, share videos. I can create all kinds of different ways that I can share a whole PowerPoint. I can create and move things around. I can make myself bigger. I can center it. It just makes it so interactive and fun. I can create different rooms. I can put people in different ways. So it's just a really cool tool that made my virtual presenting a little more human and a little more interactive. So that was a great tool, a great investment. It's in beta right now, so I think it's just going to get even better. Sorry, I'm switching back to my actual video.
Yeah,
That's
incredible.
That's a good one. I suggest there's a beta list, but they got me. I signed up and then they got me on almost. I think it was the same day. So people should be able to get access to that. I invested in ScreenFlow as well. ScreenFlow is an editing software so that I can, do fast editing for virtual stuff, and then I can do intros. And then again, StreamYard is a really good one so that you can do intros and video editing. So those are the three.
So yeah, a lot of what you're talking about is audio, video, staying connected to your ecosystem, right? And delivering a better presentation, whether it's speaking or coaching, right?
Better experience, yes.
Better experience. Excellent. Riva, you can't say ditto to what Brian just said.
No, are you kidding? I'm in awe there.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was more, it's just two people in my company, right? So my partner's computer broke. So, I mean, mostly any investment was in hardware. We had to buy a couple of new computers. I bought a new iPad, an upgraded one. I did spring for the full version of Zoom rather than the free one. I bought, you can't tell today because it's sitting in a box across the room. I bought a ring light. I bought a mic that I can't figure out how to make it work with my computer. So I'm using these. I just bought expensive these because I'm tired of the cheap stuff. But it hasn't come yet. So no, I mean, for me, it's been all hardware, and it has nothing to do with COVID, other than Zoom maybe. But I think I would have done that anyway. I think that it's really important for small businesses to keep up with the basics. And I mean, you may not need what Brian needs, but there's something that you probably do need. And if you're looking for new hardware, this is the time of year to buy it, right? Things are dirt cheap in a lot of places. So I would say that you need to keep up that way.
Yeah.
And you can't, what is it? You can't be penny wise and pound foolish. And I think that's really important.
I think those are all great points. And like you, Riva, I invested in when I realized that that the in-person meetings were gone. I invested in technology to help what I call get myself Zoom ready. So the webcam, the microphone, the ring lights, and everything like that, I invested in. And to Brian's point, I love Lately, and I think I turned you on to Lately. Holy smokes. So Riva and I come from a print publishing background, and the idea of being able to transcribe a 40-minute podcast or webcast in about 60 seconds is mind-blowing to us.
You'll be proud of me. I transcribed one yesterday without your help.
There you go. Grasshopper, you have grown. Well, and now they do video. It really, that to me is, and that's where I think let's expand this to a larger sense in terms of technology that allows business owners to solve problems.
Yeah.
And that's where this is really kind of the first big takeaway I want to share with the audience. And that is, when you have a problem in your business right now, whether it's, staying connected to your customers, building your pipeline for prospects, marketing, inventory, whatever it is, supply chain management. The answer is to your problem is probably out there in the world. Like, you're not the first person to have this problem. So a lot of business owners don't think this way. And Riva and I have yet to figure this out. Go out and ask the universe, hey, I've got this problem. How do I solve it? It is incredible how many people, like a Brian Kramer, will come along and say, oh, get this, this, and this, and it will help you. Oh, supply chain management, you need this technology and this software.
I think that is a continuing gap for small business owners, is tech ongoing tech support, right?
Right.
So like where do you turn to get help? And that's particularly difficult in times like this. I have Macs, and so when the Apple store closed down, I'm like, normally, you walk in or you make an appointment, you go in and somebody can fix something. Well, if the store's not open, you're relying on people to do it over the phone, and sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't.
Right.
And you can join the Geek Squad, and that's helpful for basic stuff. But I just think that there's still, for small businesses without big IT budgets, there's not a lot of tech support out there to help them do what Brian just said. Brian Kramer reeled off, like 10 pieces of software that I'd never heard of, that a lot of like, oh, wow, that would change my life. But nobody's there to tell them that.
Right. So that is, ask three words, ask the universe, learn to ask the universe. I've got this problem. Anybody have an idea about how we can solve it? All right. I promised this was going to be 30 minutes. So we're going to move along now. And I've got some questions that business owners have asked me throughout the week. So Joe from Wales, Wisconsin wants to know, how much of a role will 5G play in his business in 2021? And he owns 4 auto parts stores. So 5G. Brian Kramer, I'm going to let you tackle that. So here's a small business retailer. What is the difference going to be between 4G and 5G in his world?
That's a hard one. It's funny because, again, I live in San Jose and 5G is not here yet. It says it is.
Right.
It's not, because I have a trigger finger. I keep clicking the speed test.
Yeah.
On my phone, and I'm like, I turn off the Wi-Fi and then I speed test, and then I'm like, it's so not 5G.
Right.
And AT&T says you have 5G, and I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
But when you will.
It says we have it.
Right.
I have I'm having I don't know if it's called separation anxiety from speed, or not feeling, I'm feeling a little bit of like AT&T is not giving me the right hugs, or I don't know, I'm not feeling loved. And so I feel like maybe I need to see a 5G therapist, and maybe he and I should go together. Joe and I should maybe go, and we should ask the universe and see a 5G therapist, because I'm not feeling like 5G is coming, and what will it do when it gets here?
Yes, that's what he wants to know. When it gets here,
when it finally gets here, whether it's 2021, definitely 2022. I think that computers will start to tablets will take over, and computers, the experience of going to the front desk will start to disappear, and then you'll start to go inside of wherever the car is at, and they're gonna, the car is gonna be the point of the transaction, and
right.
you're going to have that as the hand over the key. The point of the transaction will be the mobile device, and you're done. You leave. And so it's all in one transaction, and it's a much more personalized experience. I think that's how it'll change for him. And I think that's how it'll change for most small business retailers. It'll be a less, it's kind of like banks, how credit unions have changed in the past. There's no more tellers.
Right.
Most of the credit unions have moved on from tellers. And I think that's brilliant, because we all want a more personal connection. And so, small business needs to do the same thing at retail, like his shop. And I think that's how it'll be.
Reva, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I have a new iPhone. It says it's 5G. I haven't noticed any difference. I think that's, again, part of the problem, where we all went home, and at home we're relying on our cable companies in most cases to provide speedy internet. And I have probably 10 devices in my house that are connected, and I've had a really hard time this year. At least my cable company is You can get them on the phone. But I've had a really hard time this year with dropped connections and all kinds of things like that. And I think that, again, if this is the direction we're going in, we need better infrastructure in order to run our businesses that way. And we can provide that. That's not up to us to make AT&T actually deliver on saying, hey, you have high 5G, but you don't. And your cable company saying, hey, you have really high speed internet, and maybe you do, and maybe you don't.
So one of the tricks there is actually twofold. This is so simple that I even found this out. Just your router, and you know, we had a 9-year-old router that was supporting 21 devices. And when COVID first hit, and I would get on Zoom, I would get, you know, the unsteady internet connection message. And as my son, who was an IT graduate from college, came in, and he swapped out the router, he updated the router, and he got us a mesh network. And we updated our agreement with our cable company from 100 megabytes to 400 megabytes a second. And it has made all the difference in the world.
But
then check your router. Then you got to check your router. And
yes, you have to check your router. So I had a problem. My router kind of died, or it was kind of, and I can't function without it. So the only store open at the time that it died was Target. So I went online to see what my Target had, and they had a mesh router. And I got there, and he goes, it's good for houses of up to 2,200 square feet and under. And I said, perfect. My house is 1,800 square feet. One level, it did not work. It didn't work. And it was Google. It wasn't a piece of crap.
I'll have my son call you.
I went and bought a different one that does bigger houses, and this kind of works.
The best, and I got to move on to the next question, but the best example I heard of 5G is 5G will be to broadband what broadband was to dial-up.
Really?
Meaning, yeah, and I've actually seen it. I've seen it, you know, at conferences. I've seen demonstrations of it. And it is incredible. And really what it means is that if small business owners don't have their act together, especially when it comes to online, meaning that your website isn't mobile friendly, and that you know, you have some issues on either iPhone or Android, that people are going to just move on, right? So as business owners, you have to constantly check the experience that your customers are getting with your technology, so that it's a great customer experience.
Yeah,
the difference agree with that.
The difference of 5G to 4G when it's fully running is 20 gigabytes per second versus 100 megabytes.
There you go. That's like a billionaire and me. That's pretty much it.
But again, we're counting on other people to deliver that to us.
And they will. All right. So let me ask, Becky in Florida has a question. I hear people talking about Zoom fatigue and being zoomed out. Do you think there might be pushback next year to video conferencing and content if and when we get our country back to normal? So Brian, you touched on that, right?
Yeah.
I think Zoom fatigue is a real thing.
Oh my God, yes.
And
it's
so
real.
How do you, so as a small business owner, I mean, if now your business has moved online and people have come to expect you to be on Zoom and to engage with people on Zoom, how do you balance that?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions. Cause this is a human question, like how do a self-care question. And well, okay. So here's a couple things. One, at the end of the day, each day when we're stacking Zoom calls on top of each other, and we show up at the end of the day emotionally wrecked, at the end of the week, we are now no good to anyone, to the point where, and I kidded before, but I really do believe we become emotional emotionally disconnected.
Yeah.
And even though and ironically, we need more connection now more than ever. And how do you get away from that? I think we need more audio, less video. I think we need to actually use our phones and get away from Zoom and actually use the phone function. It's actually a really cool app on your phone where you can actually call people, called a phone. It's actually called a phone app. It's really cool. And you can dial people and then they pick it up and then you talk. It's really, really neat. And then you hang up and you feel way better.
You go about your day.
Yeah. And actually half of my coaching calls that I have, I ask them to do it that way instead. And we walk away actually having a more powerful conversation than on Zoom, because you spend more time looking at yourself than you do the other person. I'm going to challenge you guys. You're probably not looking at me. You're looking at you, and it's okay. You don't have to tell me that you're looking at yourself, but I would challenge you on Zooms to turn yourself off, your video. If you have to do a Zoom, turn your video off, your own video, and just look at the other person if you have to do it. And that will decrease the emotional connection at the end of the day for the amount. Now, Brian, you just actually turned your video off. Turn your self video off.
Oh, there you go.
Does that make so at the very
I just
top?
wanted to let you know I was listening, but I guess I wasn't.
Yeah, now you just made me think you're not listening to me. And that made me emotionally stunted.
I'll fix that. We'll talk after.
We'll talk after. I'm kidding.
I'll unstunt you. Reva, what do you think?
And yes. So I agree with Brian. So now, I have to do a lot of interviews over Zoom, and I do them over Zoom because of the lately thing, right? So I can do a Zoom interview and I can get that transcript, which just saves me hours and angst. But I don't like to do them in video because you're worried about looking at that person, because I don't like to look at myself when I'm talking. Like when I was always if I ever did TV things, I always, I hated having the monitor in my face. But so you're looking at that person, but you really want to be looking down and taking notes or looking at something. And I feel like you're not maintaining eye contact, so which is rude, but you're really trying to do the best job you can. And so I'm kind of with Brian. I'm over the video call. As a woman, Brian, you're the only person Brian Moran, the only person outside my family that I've been on a Zoom call where I didn't put makeup on. So all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I got to go, get Zoom ready. I read this story yesterday about Kamala Harris, and that when they were leading up to the VP decision and Biden hadn't made it yet, her staff said to her, Biden wants to talk to you. So she assumed it was going to be a phone. And that was that. And all of a sudden it was like, no, he wants to talk to you on video. And she panicked because she wasn't Zoom ready. And she had to, you have to put your face on. And that's just, who needs that stuff? So I think that I'm kind of zoomed out. I like talking to my family on it, but other than that,
I agree. And we're all guilty as business owners. All three of us are business owners. And I think I'll speak for us in case I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think we're all guilty of being too tech dependent, and that it's something that, whether it's our phones or Zoom, that it's the downside of living in a connected world. And I think that for business owners, here's going to be our last takeaway from today, but that in a 24/7 connected world, there is a tremendous benefit for taking breaks during the day. Put your phone down, turn your cameras off, and go walk, the neighborhood. Go outside and just eat your lunch outside, even if it's by yourself. I still read daily newspapers every day. I go to the store, Krauser's in my town, and
you're the one.
I'm the one. I'm the guy. And
Oh,
I read newspapers because
I heard about you.
there's something about that, getting the print on your fingers and reading it, and it's true. But there is the technology can be the great equalizer, and it can be the great demoralizer, the way you use it. And so it's, my grandfather back in the day, remember when we had the rotary phones with the 60 feet cord so you could talk to your girlfriend in the basement of your house? My grandfather like almost tripped over it one time, and I was hanging up the phone. He said, "Brian, come here. The telephone is for communication and not conversation." Like, okay, Pop, I'm good. Won't happen again.
That's funny.
But that is a great way. Let technology serve its purpose from a business perspective, but don't let it become a time robber, I think, is where we're going with all of this. Make sure that you at least own a portion of your day where you're not on camera, you're not checking email, you're not playing, what's that, Candy Crush, whatever. All right, this we unfortunately we've gone over, but Martin from Pennsylvania did ask me a question earlier this week, and he writes, what exactly does NetSuite do? So here you go, Martin. For this is for you. They offer a suite of software tools to help companies run more effectively. Many companies run multiple systems, applications for financials, HR, inventory, and more. NetSuite does all of that in one place. And so, Martin, that is what NetSuite does. So I appreciate that. And I'll actually have a link in the at the bottom of this Q&A section so that you can read it. Guys, believe it or not, we're done here for Tech Week. Next week is Financial Week, which is going to wrap up our 6-week boot camp for women and minority business owners. And
can I just throw one thing in, Brian? There was a survey done a couple of years ago that said women and minority business owners are more dependent on tech than the average business owner because they feel that it levels the playing field. So that's really an important viewpoint.
I'm glad you got that in. I'm glad. And you know what? It 100% does. It allows you to project yourself in a much bigger way. If you use technology smartly and effectively and efficiently, I think it allows you to compete on stages that normally you would have no business competing on. Great point, Reva. Okay, Brian Kramer, I'm going to ask both of you how people can get in touch with you if they have questions for you or want to talk after this. So, Brian, what's the best way somebody can reach out to you?
Not through Zoom.
But like snail mail do it?
Yeah, you'll be the only one who actually sends me something in snail mail.
Yeah.
That's not I'm a telemarketer.
Yeah.
So you can, my phone numbers, no, I'm kidding. You can email me at Brian, BRYAN at briankramer.com. So Brian with a Y, Kramer with a K. Ironically, I was telling my dad the other day, I'm like, he owed me, which is weird. He owed me money for something. This is the first time in my life my dad owed me money.
Yeah.
And I told him it's Brian with a Y, Kramer with a K. And he told me, really? I named you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's just so habit. It's like people just, I'm like, it's your fault. I have to say that,
Right.
But
I don't have that problem.
Yeah, no, you're Brian with an I, and that's just whatever.
Right.
Good for you. Good for you. So
I get brain moron, by the way.
Oh, dude, I get brain crammer.
Yeah. Right. We can get into that.
Yeah.
All right. So thank
Brian at briankramer.com or oh, sorry. What?
I was going to say, neither one of you have anything to complain about names when your name is Reva Lasansky. Sorry, I got both of you beat.
All right, fine. You win. You win that one.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
So yeah, the other way is just briankramer.com and everything you need to find and connect is there.
Excellent. Reva.
Okay, so it's Reva, RIEVA. My dad invented that at smallbizdaily.com, or just hit me up on Twitter at Reva, RIEVA.
Oh, that's cool. You got a cool Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Well,
got
when your
that a
name
week
is
ago.
Riva,
Yeah, she got that a week ago. People weren't clamoring for Riva on Twitter for whatever reason. I have no idea. All right. Well, thank you both. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. I know our viewers and our listeners appreciate the takeaways that you gave. And we'll have all of the things that we talked about in a resource page at the bottom of this video on our website, which is bootcamp.smallbusinessedge.com. This concludes actually our all of our content and programming that we've done for Tech Week, which was exciting. I think there's a lot of great information here. So to our viewers, our listeners, thank you very much again for all your feedback, your questions, your suggestions. We are noting them and we're getting back to you quickly on that. And we'll see you next week, last week of the Small Business Edge Business Boot Camp for women and minority business owners. And it's financial week and we have a great lineup. So make sure you come check us out. Thanks, everybody. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and we wish you a prosperous new year. All the best.